Okay, now we look at our gospel passage, which comes from Matthew chapter 24, verses 37 through 44. Jesus said to his disciples, "As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. In those days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, up to the day that Noah entered the ark. They did not know until the flood came and carried them all away. So will it be also at the coming of the Son of Man. 2 men will be out in the field, one will be taken, and one will be left. 2 women will be grinding at the mill, one will be taken, and one will be left. Therefore stay awake, for you do not know on which day your Lord will come. Be sure of this, if the master of the house had known the hour of night when the thief was coming, he would have stayed awake and not let his house be broken into. So too you also must be prepared, for at an hour you do not expect the Son of Man will come." Okay, so this is a part of the gospel when Jesus is, of course, talking about the end of all things, the end of all things that is proximate to them, that is to say immediately relevant for them. So like in 70 AD, Jerusalem is destroyed by the Roman Empire. So that kind of thing of like the immediate fulfillment of him talking about the end of all things, which again we'll talk about, or will lead into the ultimate fulfillment of all things, the ultimate end of all things, which comes at the end of the world, his second coming, his final coming in glory, which we spoke about a few weeks ago, maybe just 2 or 3 weeks ago on in our readings for Sunday Mass. So anyway, so that's the sort of area that we find ourselves in Matthew's Gospel. In this particular part, we didn't really get the verse, but the one right before this, in verse 36, Jesus talks about how, of that hour nobody knows. And so that's why we get in our own passage here, it says, "Therefore stay awake, for you do not know on which day your Lord will come." So he's revealing in this section of Matthew's Gospel, so not just this passage, but in this section, he's revealing the signs that people are supposed to look for. But he does not reveal everything. There's something that he conceals about, like when it's going to happen, when precisely is that day going to come. So it's just kind of a mysterious part of the Gospels when Jesus speaks like this, that he's revealing something, but he's also concealing something. It kind of makes you think of our understanding of parables, that parables, they do reveal something about the mysteries of the kingdom, but there's also something that you got to really think through because there's something concealing about it. And that's just part of God's mysterious providence, his way of providing for us. So anyway, but here Jesus is talking about, of course, Noah. So as it was in the days of Noah, so will it be at the coming of the Son of Man. So think about the Noah. So Genesis chapter 6, the Lord looks down on his people and he says that they're all corrupt, except for Noah's family. They're all corrupt. And so he tells Noah to build this ark, and he builds the ark, and it's going to rain for 40 days, etc. Then what happens? Noah and his family and all the other animals get into the ark, and then the rain comes. And what happens? Noah's family remains on earth. They're in the ark, they're floating, but it's still the earth. And the other people are swept away by the flood. So who are the ones that are left? The righteous ones. And who are the ones that are taken away? The unrighteous ones. That I think is a really helpful point, just sort of think through. I think we might want to read this passage because of the modern day Protestant understanding of the rapture. We want to read through this and be like, oh, it's the righteous ones who are going to be taken up into heaven, and the unrighteous who will be left behind. In fact, there's an entire book series called Left Behind. It's all based on the rapture, which is false doctrine. Just an interesting little thing here. And so the Lord says, well, as it was in the day of Noah, so will it be at the coming of the Son of Man. And then he goes into what was going on. So they were all distracted and occupied with concerns of the world. They were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage up to the day. So they didn't know until the flood came and carried them all away. So they're so preoccupied with worldly goods that it caused them to totally turn away from the Lord. They turned away from him. The Lord had no place in him. It actually makes you think of last weekend, the solemnity of Jesus Christ, the King of the universe. The reason that it was instituted by the Holy Father in the early 1900s was because he was looking out at a world that had largely removed God from their minds. They had so been occupied with worldly affairs that they had removed God from their vocabulary, from their prayer life, from their worship, from their Sunday activities. They'd removed God. And so he said, no, we need to institute a day that we call people back to this reality of like, no, God needs to be preeminent. He needs to be the Lord and the King of your life. So too, in the days of Noah, they had been so preoccupied with worldly things that they had no concern for the one who had created them and given them life. And Jesus says, just as it was in the day of Noah, so will it be at the coming of the Son of Man, his final coming in glory. People are going to be so occupied with worldly things that they're not going to have a concern for the Lord. And so then he gives these examples of 2 men will be out in the field, one will be taken, one will be left. 2 women will be grinding at the mill, one will be taken and one will be left. Again, we want to think that the one left behind is the unrighteous one and the one taken is the one that is righteous and being taken into the kingdom. But if we're going based off of the example that Jesus gives with Noah, no, the ones that are taken, we might say, are swept away, just like the unrighteous in Noah's time were swept away, and the ones left behind are the ones who are righteous, who are awaiting the new heavens and the new earth. And what's I guess striking about it, just as I think about this, is like they're doing the same actions, it seems, in these examples. They're doing the same things. So there must have been something in their minds and in their hearts that the Lord can see that we can't see. That reveals, oh, this person actually still has a mind for me. This person's heart is still on me. And so that's why that person will be seen as righteous, whereas the other one is not even thinking of the Lord because of the preoccupation with worldly things. And, that's just one little scene into those people's lives, so who knows how they were living otherwise. But that's the example that Jesus gives. So then, therefore, he says, therefore, stay awake. And again, I think we know this experience. We for sure know this experience in our world, how easy it is for us to, even though we're awake and moving around, how easy it is for us to just fall asleep. To become numb to the Lord's presence, to become numb to the experience of life. How easy it is to just grab your phone and just scroll, or how easy it is to just be so preoccupied with the news that you just get consumed by it, or with sports, or with your kids' activities or grandkids' activities, or whatever it is. It's just so easy to get consumed with whatever is in front of us that it causes us to kind of fall into a spiritual sleep, a spiritual malaise. And so the Lord's warning us. He's like, stay awake, because when I'm coming, and you don't know the day on which your Lord is going to come, but when I come, you're going to want to be awake. You're going to want to be alert to my presence. You're going to want to be alert to my love, to my grace that I've been giving you. And then he gives this example, be sure of this, if the master of the house had known the hour when the thief was coming, there's no way he would have fallen asleep. If he had known when the thief was coming, he would have stayed up all night and waited for that moment so that he could just pummel the thief and just say no, get out of here. So Jesus is saying a similar kind of thing. Obviously, we're not going to want to pummel Jesus when he comes, but if we knew when he was coming, we would be awake and we would be alert. And he's saying, you don't know that time, and so just stay awake. Don't fall asleep. Don't let yourself fall asleep. So he says, you also must be prepared, for at an hour you do not expect the Son of Man will come. And again, there are 3 applications we can take from this. So one, again, there's the historical reality of what has taken place already, the destruction of Jerusalem. There's something within this, and really not just within this passage, but within this entire section in Matthew's gospel. There's something within this that is a warning for the people to be on alert, that everything you see here, the temple and all its glory and the situation that you have in Jerusalem, it will not always last. And so be prepared even for that moment. There's then a second reality, which is, we could say, the present reality that we have as Catholic Christians, which is that the Lord does in fact come each and every day in the Holy Eucharist and in other sacraments that we receive, but above all in the Holy Eucharist. And so there's this call for us when we come to Mass, again, how easy it is, and this is the case for priests as much as it would be for anyone sitting in the pews, how easy it is when we're at Mass to just go through the motions and to let our words and our worship be just empty ritual. How easy it is to tune out and to be thinking about any number of different things, the grocery list or the game that's coming up, or wanting to be out in the hunting stand, or whatever it is. It's just so easy for us to be at Mass and to not be at Mass at the same time because we're so preoccupied with something else. And it's no, Jesus comes in that moment. It should be the high point of every single week, of every single day that we have when we go to Mass. And so the Lord's stay awake for that, because if you're awake, if you're alert to it, it will in fact be that. But if you let yourself fall asleep, it won't be that, and you'll miss out on the coming of the Son of Man. at least in the present moment. And then there's the third thing, which is the future, what we call eschatology. That is the end of all things, the parousia, the arrival, the second advent of Christ, which is when he comes again and the world as we know it comes to its completion. And that is, again, something that, of course, we want to think of that right away. We want to kind of skip over the first two and think immediately of the final coming in glory of the Son of Man. And again, we want to be present all three of those things. I guess in the past, it's the past. So we don't have to always be thinking about the destruction of Jerusalem. We don't have to think of that. But to be aware of the present reality of the coming of the Son of Man, even while we look forward to and anticipate the future coming in glory for the final time of the Son of Man at the last coming. So anyway, there's actually a lot for us. There's a lot for us, and Advent calls us to be alert. This is why I mentioned in the last session this reality of it's not, strictly speaking, a penitential season, but at the same time, clearly, like if I'm going to stay alert to the things of God, I need to deny myself some of the things of the earth, of the world. And it's not to say that those things are necessarily bad, although some of them definitely are. But it's not to say that they're necessarily bad. It's just that because of my tendency towards sin, I can let good things become better to me than they ought to be. Because of my tendency to be consumed by fleshly, sensible things, I can let them have more of a prominent role in my life than the invisible, intangible reality of God and the spiritual life. And so during the season of Advent, I'm called by the church, and for that matter by the Lord, but especially by the church, I'm called to come out of that spiritual malaise, if I'm in one, so that I can enter into a sense of alertness. And hopefully that alertness can carry me through not just to Christmas, but can carry me through to like the rest of my life. Like that's the goal. However perfectly or imperfectly it ends up being fulfilled. Okay, great. So St. Paul's going to talk about this, actually, like most clearly he's going to talk about this in our second reading. So we'll come up to that soon. Peace.